start with a open with a prayer, and then we'll and then I'll introduce Crystal. So, hey everybody, welcome to the third uh, Faith and Community on Creation Care. This has been a pretty good, I think, month, and we had it's pretty good discussion. So, if you would just let us pray. And this is this is portions of this prayer adapted from Full Circle by Howard Shapiro. Covenant keeping, creation making God, as we journey together as Easter people, cultivating our faith, being curious, looking, listening, wondering where you will show up, we pray in great gratitude this morning for the love that raises the sun and greets us in each drop of water we drink, in each crumb of bread we taste, in each rainbow we meet with awe, entranced by the generosity of your promises. Our times are fraught with challenge. Our earth, under our stewardship, suffers climate chaos. Our fellow humans suffer from wounds of conflict, floods, droughts, disease, and crumbling economic systems. All manner of suffering and questions press into our souls. Our small beating hearts do not seem large enough, yet daily they keep expanding beyond their bodily boundaries into compassion. Each morning, hope beckons us into stardust destiny. Each noontime grace feeds us with love. Each evening, an invisible breath enfolds us in a shawl of mercy. O Creator, who has love, hope, grace, and breath, transform our sadness and doubt into songs for life. As we set sights on possibilities in space, we pray for our beloved planet and all our siblings living on this rock together. May healing waters bathe the rivers and oceans. May small deliberate actions grow seeds of earth justice. May one prophetic note of the smallest bird song and courageously sung on a busy street inspire our leaders to free their voices to speak for the common good and future generations. O God of all names and beyond all names, may I and we collectively be the face of your transforming love in this moment, in this day, in these times. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. All right, welcome everybody. And we have today Crystal Dreisbach, who is the executive director of Don't Waste Durham. She's also the force behind Green to Go and Green to Go dinners and Boomerang bags. And she's recently spoke at the EPA. But I'll let her do more introductions. Thank you so much for being here. We're excited for you to tell us all about what we can do as individuals and as a congregation.
So much for inviting me, Chris. I sure appreciate it. I love talking to people. I love seeing people's faces. It's hard for me during a pandemic, being an off-the-charts extrovert, to be cooped up in my house. So whenever I can look into people's eyeballs, it makes me very happy. And one of the most precious gifts people can give each other is the gift of time. And so your being with me today means a whole lot. So like Chris said, I'm Crystal Dreisbach. I've lived in Durham since 2005. And in 2013, I founded a nonprofit called Don't Waste Durham. And it was in response to wanting to prevent waste from, from the start. It's wonderful to do recycling. It's wonderful to do litter cleanup. But can we just please help turn off the faucet as well? So it's been a passion project of mine, even though I came out of a public health background. It's all obviously very related. And happy Earth Month to all of you. I hope you celebrated it in some way on April 22nd. It's a very special month to Don't Waste Durham. Obviously, I'm going to share with you the slide presentation I made and work to get through it and communicate some of my thoughts and inputs. And then I'll leave time for us to talk, because I'm sure you all have wonderful thoughts and expertise as well. So I don't happen to can think of myself as an expert. I'm just I just think of myself as someone who,
Mm.
is kept up at night. I wake in the night thinking of problems, but also solutions. So I'm going to share some of that with you now. Sharing my screen. Here we go. I think you all can see that. I'm going to hit present. So I made this presentation just for you all. It's just loading. I thought I don't want to be depressing, but of course there are hard truths that we must face with what's going on right now. But I thought, being the solutionary that I am, I don't like to sit and cry on the couch with the newspaper, but I like to get together with others and see what we can do. So I'm going to communicate to you now some of those things. Again, my nonprofit's mission is to create solutions that prevent trash. And we have a wonderful group of people, and we work on both policy change and innovations. As you know, there are many problems out there in the world, not just trash. A lot of what I'm going to talk about is our relationship with products, because I think that's one of the issues that leads to a lot of problems in the world. But in terms of the planetary emergencies, I'm sure many of you are familiar with some of the things going on that are a little bit terrifying. Just the other day, it seems we lost one of our large iceberg/glaciers. And a lot of people think, well, okay, they're slowly melting, but it's such a massive amount of water that it's changing the landscape of the planet. The water is rising. It's changing the way water flows. And now one thing they've noticed is the melting has been such a huge shift in the planet. It's actually changed the axis of the planet by a few degrees. Now, there's no telling what the fallout of that will be. But that's pretty alarming. And the scientists also say we're in the midst of the sixth mass extinction. So we have a lot of things going on that are worrisome, and we're sort of in this what seems like an unstoppable vicious cycle of carbon emissions. So let us move on from this pile of trash, which is very depressing to look at. But you can see why whenever I walk by trash, I'm the weirdo who looks inside it and takes pictures, and I think about it deeply. So as you may know, one of the big problems is trash. We don't think about it a lot because we put it inside a bin and they haul it away. But I can't stop thinking about it. One thing is that we have landfills. Landfills are useful. We can stuff things and not think about it, and hopefully some of it breaks down. But a lot of it does not break down. And our landfills are moving toward capacity. They are filling up, and there's no stop. There's no end or slowdown of the things we're putting in it. And there used to be 100 landfills in North Carolina. There used to be one for every county. And now they have closed a bunch of them, not because of capacity necessarily. Some that's true, but some are about a local we have pretty strict landfill regulations in North Carolina, which is a good thing. But because of those, they had to close down 80 of the 100 landfills. So we have 20. And what does that mean? That means that 100 counties are using 20 landfills. And they have to drive farther and farther away to get to the landfills that have capacity. And we're trucking our trash away to poor places, and it's quite an environmental justice issue. And there's some articles that have just come out. We work with the Duke Environmental Law and Policy Clinic that helps us do the legal action and the research it takes to change policy. And one memo we just put out is how our trash is actually an incredibly important environmental injustice issue. And whenever you have time, if you want, This 60-second video I made about where our trash goes in Durham is available on the front page of our website. So, oh, yes. So this may seem a little abstract to you, but I will explain. There's a wonderful think tank in England called the Ellen MacArthur Foundation, and they're sort of the global thought leaders in this thing called the circular economy. And I'll explain that in a little bit. Some people may have an inkling of what that is. Maybe you're already experts, I'm not sure, but I'll give the basics in a moment. We are obviously trying to cut greenhouse gases. And why? Because it's heating up the planet, and it's going to be to the point where we're creating endangered species. We already are, and we're, well, quite frankly, endangering our own selves. So we want to move to renewable energy, and that is something people are working on. That takes a lot of policy change. It takes a lot of innovation. But even if we moved entirely to renewable energy, the Ellen MacArthur says, even if the entire planet moved entirely to renewable energy at this point, we would actually only meet our climate goals by 55%. And the rest of it needs to come from how we make and use products, how things are extracted from the earth, what we're doing with the things that we grow and eat. And so that's a lot of what I want to talk about. There's this image over here is one of the documents that they put out. It's very interesting. You can just look it up. And I think it came out a year or two ago, and they did all of this kind of research into, hey, we got a problem. Where should we put our energy? So we already know some of these problems. A lot of people think that in terms of food packaging and things, that compostable bags, compostable paper fiber containers and things like that are great. Well, they're coming to find out it is not a good choice. A lot of research just came out in the last few weeks through the National Reuse Network, of which I am a part. The Center for Environmental Health has found that nearly all paper fiber containers contain PFAS, which is a forever chemical. And of course, that's bad for our health. But more importantly, if it does get composted, that PFAS is then entering our soil, which then grows our food. So you can just imagine the fallout of that. If it ends up in the landfill, which the majority of them do, people think it'll be fine, they'll break down. It's true, they do break down, but they do it in the absence of oxygen, because as you know, if you've ever done a compost pile, it absolutely must be turned. It must have access to oxygen, or at least be in some sort of container that allows lots of oxygen to be exposed, the contents to be exposed to oxygen. In landfills, that's not the case. It gets piled in and packed down and down and down, and it actually breaks down any organic material, banana peel, paper, whatever you throw in the trash will break down and produce high amounts of methane gas because it is breaking down anaerobically. And organics in the landfill is one of the most giant producers of global climate. One of the things that speeds up global climate change. So compostables really sound nice. They look awfully nice, don't they? They're brown, sometimes green. They make us feel good. But honestly, they're costing the businesses about 20 times more in some cases. And they're just speeding up global climate change. So I don't recommend them. I think there are better solutions. Recycling is becoming more and more expensive. A lot of people think recycling is something we do that the government provides because it's a good thing. But those are private companies trying to make money. And the recyclable materials market is really struggling. They are dependent on volatile global markets. And there are only a couple of materials that actually make them money. So Sonoco, with an O, not Sunoco, the oil company, Sonoco Recycling is the place over in Raleigh that takes all of Wake County, Orange County, and Durham County recyclables. And a story for another day is how those recyclables get there. Trust me, you don't want to know. But when they do get there, the Sonoco which is our partner of ours, tells us that 75% of what they receive at Sunoco facility from households is not valuable to them to recycle, and they have to pay someone to haul it away. So at some point, I have a whole presentation on how to make the most of your recycling. Obviously, you want to try to do without if you absolutely can, but if you have a recyclable in your hand, by all means, recycle it, and just either be well informed of what's happening to those things and how you can make the most out of recycling so that they make the most money. If they stop making money, those private companies, recycling will end. And then, of course, many cities across the United States are banning these single-use plastics. And then what are they doing? They're buying compostables, and we know how that goes. So a lot of problems, but fear not, do not be depressed. I will now tell you about opportunities. As I said, I have a whole presentation about recycling, if you ever want to know. Happy to give that one. It takes a whole half an hour, so we won't go into that. But I wanted to talk about some things about what we can do now. Now, these seem kind of high level, but I'm going to break them down. So obviously, I'm sure it's faith-based folks that you are. I am as well. We like to try to align our values about, the stewardship of God's creation. We want to align those values with our actions. I know many of you probably already do that. You say, well, I recycle, and, I don't know, some other things. Perhaps you drive a Prius. There are many wonderful things that people are doing to align their values with their actions. I bet you've already completed step one. Step two, I think, is to get acquainted with global solutions. Global solutions are something we can all participate in. It's true. I'm going to explain why it's even better to get involved in local solutions. First of all, it'll make you feel great because it feels a lot less abstract, and there are concrete things you can do with your hands that actually help contribute. And if anyone's ever interested in that, I got a whole list of tangible tasks that will lead us to global solutions by acting locally. So first of all, getting acquainted with global solutions. You, as caring people that you are about creation care, I bet you've already heard about Project Drawdown. Just very briefly, Project Drawdown is really, really cool. I'm a scientist, and I come from this concept of research utilization and meta-analyses. All that means is, let's take all available evidence, research evidence, all that we know, and consolidate it into something we can actually use. And that's exactly what Project Drawdown is. They took all of the best scientists in the entire world who are concerned about these things, and they did the meta-analyses to rank these in the most helpful solutions, because we're all over the place, aren't we? We're talking about wind turbines, we're talking about solar farms, we're talking about food waste, every single thing you can imagine, and that is very overwhelming. Solutions are equally as overwhelming. So I just put a screenshot here. You're able to go and sort. You can see the drop down up top where it says scenario. You can actually sort it by most to least effective in terms of carbon sequestering. And maybe you're already familiar with carbon sequestering, but it is the thing that we need to be doing. And there are millions of ways to be doing it. Well, the top three, I just want to highlight those, are all things that we can do. So these are global solutions you could align your values with. One is reducing food waste. All kinds of ways to do that. Did you know, I bet you did, there is enough food in our community right now to feed all the hungry people. It is absolutely the truth, but the distribution is not there. So either we reduce our own food waste, send less organic material to the landfill. Remember, I told you about that. Hugest global drivers of climate change. Reducing the amount of organic matter that goes to landfill. That's something we can all do. It's a global solution. We can also get edible food to people who can eat it now. Got all kinds of solutions for that, y'all, on a local level if you want to get involved there. You already do a lot of food distribution, which is pretty awesome. I've heard about that from Chris. And then health and education. Imagine that. There's a lot of reasons for that. Those are fundamental, and a lot of it goes to education of girls and honestly, family planning, access to family planning. So interestingly, here's how all that ties together. I just learned that, the global population is growing, right? And it's sort of an exponential situation, because the more people are being born, the more people will be born, right? Because those people are making more people. It's just exponential. So if we were to, and it's mostly in very hot places. Imagine this: if the global population, which is rising, was to all get air conditioners, because honestly they need them. It's so hot and getting hotter. We do not have the amount of materials needed to make air conditioners for everybody. So you can see down below there's alternative refrigerants. That's one of the things. It's so simple. People in hot places, if they don't have an air conditioner, they darn well want an air conditioner because it's so freaking hot. Yet every time they buy an air conditioner, it drives the carbon emissions up, and the resources extracted from the earth to make those, there's not enough. So we're in big trouble. So helping to curb the population, and we're not talking about like, can't remember what it's called. It's not like the evil kind of population control. It's just like giving the ability for education leads to the ability to make choices about how many children you have. So that's where health and education comes in. And then, of course, plant-rich diets. Those are things that all of us can do if we choose, or if that's something we can do in our life. So anyway, these are some of the global solutions we can get acquainted with. And then, Don't Waste Durham is one working on local solutions that everybody may get involved in Durham if you wish to do that. Jane Fonda, who is some people laugh. She was a funny character back in the 70s and 80s, but she is an activist now. And she said something cool. She said, the best thing you can do for the planet right now is join a group, because we're stronger together in a group, and groups can make impact. So if you care about something, find a group that's doing that and work together. So anyway, I, of course, have bias toward people helping at Don't Waste Durham. We do policy change and education, yes, but what's missing in the middle a lot of times is an alternative. And we want to show what alternatives are feasible. So as you can see, on the left, we're sort of in a linear economy situation. Americans have a very strong, deep, long relationship with the garbage can. We just do. The recycling economy came in and said, let's get some of that back into circulation, which they do. Some of it does get recirculated back into new products, but really it's downcycled. Things can only be recycled so much, unless it's aluminum. That is one exception. Aluminum never loses its integrity and is infinitely recyclable. So if you ever have to choose between glass, plastic, or aluminum, please choose aluminum. But inevitably, all of those things end up in the trash can. The circular economy, which is what Ellen MacArthur Foundation and Don't Waste Durham, everyone is trying to get to, is to truly create a regenerative society. And we believe we can. There is no obstacle we cannot overcome in the path to that. So I already talked about that, didn't I? So you've probably heard of Green to Go. This is a reusable takeout container service. Containers that can be used 500 to 1,000 times are circulated. We pick up, wash, and deliver, pick up, wash, and deliver. And we've been permitted by the health department since 2016. So here is the circulation of the containers. As I mentioned, it's very, very simple. Everyone understands circles. What this does is take us away from our relationship with the trash can, and honestly puts us in relationship with each other. Circular economy builds jobs. It keeps things out of the landfill, and we are carbon reductive. We only use bicycles, and water and electricity used to wash dishes is so much, highly significantly less than what it takes to produce single-use disposables over and over and over. A lot of people think, oh, you're killing the planet by washing dishes. That is absolutely not the case. So we also created, I won't go into this because it's just too much for the moment, but what I'm trying to say with this slide is that it is entirely possible. We can get electric cargo vans if we need to go farther than what Karen can do on a bicycle. We can grow and grow and grow into a municipal wash facility where we are on track to make reusables a municipal utility. That is my aim. If trash and recycling can be picked up at the curb, why can't reusables? It's a thing of the future, and if anyone's going to do it, Durham is. You can imagine all the places that are wasteful, everything from sports stadiums to retirement homes to grocery delivery, you name it, we can pick up reusables. And oh boy, I made a complicated slide, and I won't go into it too much, but this is what we have devised and we're working toward. At the top right, you've got durable products, all kinds. And the reason why a lot of people do not use durable products is because it's very hard to get them reused. So they think, well, why not use a plastic bag when I sell bags of lettuce, right? You go to the store, you want some salad, it seems to all come in plastic. Well, it doesn't need to. And we're working with a lot of local brands because that is what you do first. You pilot things locally, show that they're feasible, and then you grow and grow and grow. So there are many local brands that would like to have their stuff back. Imagine that. If things were picked up curbside and people were rewarded with their app or technology, for example. Maybe people don't care about being rewarded, but some people do. They can have that motivator, and then the supply chain logistics to recover those things go to the infrastructure, which is missing. Instead of baling up, crunching up plastic and baling it and selling it to China to make more crap we don't need, why don't we circulate things locally, create jobs, reclaim the products, wash and redistribute? Anyway, lots of abstract things there, but we also work on policy change. And anyone is welcome to get involved with that. A lot of things going on right now, and honestly, we need lots of help. So you may have heard of Bull City Boomerang Bag, a very important project to make free and equitable access to reusable bags through kiosks and dispensers at grocery stores across Durham. And we just launched 2 days ago at the Save a Lot in East Durham. We're very proud. We have 1,500 bags so far sewn by volunteers out of reused materials. We do a lot of work with reducing waste in Durham schools, trying to return them to reusable trays, just like we used to do back in the day. It's possible to do it again. So many other things I could say, but I want to encourage everyone to align your values with your actions. You're probably already doing that, but get acquainted with the global solutions. See if you can aim your values and actions toward the global solutions, but do it through local action. And lots of things you can do there. Try to eat less meat. It sounds silly, but if we all do that a little, you can't imagine how much carbon we're saving. Trees, of course, sequester carbon. There's this wonderful movie you might have seen, Kiss the Ground, which is all about soil and how We showed it as part of our film series, the panel presentation, and I learned a lot. I had no idea how much trees sequester carbon. So many things we can do. And I have lists and lists of tasks we need. If you know how to iron something, you can be part of the bag assembly line. If you know how to use a screwdriver, we have so many tasks. If you like to contribute your thoughts and do some think tank and advocacy and interactions with people, boy, do we have all kinds of things you can do. So here's my contact information, and thank you for having me.
Great. Thank you, Crystal. Yeah, and you mentioned Kiss the Ground, and in our May meeting with Creation Care, our meeting on Thursday, May 2nd Thursday of the month. I can't remember the number. We're gonna discuss that film. It's available for free right now. It's on Netflix if you have Netflix right now, and if you need a hard copy if you don't have that, you can ask. I have a copy that I can lend to folks. But any question? Thank you so much again, Crystal. But any questions? I'm sure we have lots of questions actually.
Yeah. What are some of the things you all are thinking right now in terms of solutions in your congregation, solutions in Durham?
Well, one issue during this pandemic is that it seems it's not so easy to use our cloth grocery bags and our reusable produce bags. And so is there any solution to that? I mean, I know it, like at Whole Foods, you can bag your own groceries at the end of the line on the little pull-out trays. You can't put anything on the conveyor belt, any bags of your own. But is there any, once things are settling down with people getting vaccinated, and if we're careful about, wearing our mask and everything, it seems reasonable that we could start using our bags again, especially produce bags.
Yep.
I mean, I guess you could put just produce on the belt and not put it in any bag. I don't know if that's such a good idea either, but.
Yeah. A lot of businesses are still using non-evidence-based practices. I'm going to share a link to all the latest known research about infection of COVID, transmission of COVID through surfaces. There has never, not once, been a transmission of COVID through food or food packaging or beverage packaging. And it's because, yes, there are some fomites, I guess there are some contact germs, but it's absolutely not enough you'd have to like stick it in your nose in high quantity or something. It's really about respiratory droplets. So not that grocery stores haven't caught up yet with the evidence base, but I'm going to send a link that has all the latest research so you yourself know. And then, yes, you can bag them yourself at, most of the grocery stores. I shop at Harris Teeter and the Co-op Market the most, and they seem to not mind as long as you're touching your own bags. The other thing is, you may not know this, but a brand new package-free grocery store has opened in downtown Durham. It's called Part and Parcel. And it's part of a nonprofit that works with autistic people to give them work experience. So it's employed by people on the autism spectrum, autistic folks. And it's a wonderful place. And they sell many of the things that you need in reusable, refillable, sanitized jars. And they absolutely allow reusable bags. In fact, we're partners with them, and we're the ones who wash and sanitize and give the jars back to them. And that might be something to check out. If they don't have everything, but perhaps if you shifted some of your purchases to the farmer's market or the local package-free grocery store, that might help too. And then, help us work toward the delivery of groceries in crates, the packing of groceries in reusable crates. I don't know if you've ever had groceries in a crate, but it makes so much more sense than having them in a bag. A lot of times, I mean, there are some people who perhaps can't carry a crate, but you know, that there are so many solutions. I would say continue to try to use your own bags at the grocery stores and consider shifting to more of the produce at farmers markets. They will absolutely let you. We're going to be putting boomerang bag kiosks at the Central and South Durham farmers market soon. I hope that's helpful. Those are my thoughts.
Yeah, and one other question I had is what about, so there's the produce, but for those of us who don't get out as much, you know,
Yeah.
we used to go to the farmer's market every Saturday, but we will start up again this spring. But what about a business like the produce box, and they deliver and you put your cooler out and they don't really wrap things. It's just all, you know, is that a viable alternative?
It's such a viable alternative. Yes, there's produce box, and definitely advocate that you enjoy using reusables, that you would return them if that's allowable, or just have no packaging at all, which is even better. You know, there's no reason we can't just have lettuce thrown in a box. We're going to wash it, aren't we? So we're working with a farm, a big farm called Honeybee Hill Farm. They have like all these CSA customers, and they want to switch away from these plastic bags for their greens. And we said, absolutely, choose something reusable. We'll restock you. You collect the reusables from your customers every week. We'll wash, sanitize, and give them back to you. I was like, it's not rocket science, it's washing stuff. So I know we can put these into use. So yes, if you have a produce box, advocate with them that, you know, alternatives are possible. I put in the chat, just don'twastedurham.org key resources. I just put this together recently because the 3 questions I addressed there come up so often, like the safety of single use, the safety of reusables during COVID, in case people are wondering about that.
I wonder if it's helpful, Crystal, for us. So somewhere like I think with Jean, we talked about this about the stores having those policies that aren't research based, and so they're not packing your bag for you for some reason. And if there's anything in terms of writing to someone and sending them little notes about,
yeah, I think so.
I mean, I can't pack my bag all the time because I can't lift it or whatever. And so just to write to whomever.
If you're sitting at home and the one thing you can do is write a letter, I would say grab some resources that you can find that are evidence-based and say, you know, to write to the managers of those stores and say, I'm a shopper, I'm one of your dedicated customers, and there's no evidence to show that reusable bags pose any risk, and I would like you to change your store policy. That would be extremely influential. One thing about that, we just did some research, a 572 respondent survey, and we did the analysis, and it's on my list to like review the final paper and then publish it. We haven't yet, but the idea was business owners have this perception in their mind about what customers want. And we believed there was a disconnect between that and what customers actually want. So for example, if you get some food, takeout food, what do they put in your bag automatically? But napkins and forks and straws and packets of sauce. And we all know we have a drawer at home, don't we? We have a drawer full of these things because we feel guilty. But this survey showed that a significant, more than significant mass majority of people never use those items. So wouldn't it be great to communicate that to the business owners and say, hey, look, you think your customers want this, but look how much you could save if you just didn't do it, or you made it opt-in only. So that's one of the laws we're going to change, is making it a law in Durham that those takeout accessories must be opt-in only.
Mhm.
I have a question. We live in a 315 group of townhouses, and we have lovely containers for cardboard, container for trash, and recyclable bins. But we don't have an educated population. So I imagine that a lot of the recycle, if it ends up with one thing wrong, then all that's trash.
Yep.
Do you have any, I'm thinking we have like 4 of these recycle centers.
Yeah.
And a lot of people are stay some, only 6 months. Do you have any recommendations?
So many recommendations.
Good.
So like, I would say the top 3 or 4 things. So one thing I don't understand, and I bet you'll agree, is if the problem is a lot of the wrong things are going in, whose job is it to do the education so that doesn't happen? And that always boggles my mind. Shouldn't it be the people for whom that's a problem? But yet it's always me. So I just feel like somebody's got to do this stuff like widespread. But yes, so I always say the number one thing that should never go in, that if everybody knew this fact, recycling would be so much better, is for Pete's sake, do not bag your recyclables. I know that sounds crazy, but they really prefer you put them in loose. And the bags do so much damage to the recycling machinery and will cause so much to just go in the garbage. So like that would be the number one. If everybody just did that, recycling would be so much better. And the other thing is, do not, as a general rule, put in the recycling bin anything smaller than your fist. And the reason is because it jams up the machines and or just filters down and goes in a pile under the machinery, which then gets swept up and thrown away. I know this because I've seen it with my eyeballs and they have told me that as well. So that would be 2 things that would really help. Glass, I hate to tell you folks, glass is not recycled at all. They have to pay someone to haul it away, and guess what it's used for? They munch it up and they use it as landfill cover, because that's one of the regulations in landfills. You have to like sprinkle stuff on every layer to like keep the plastic bags from flying away, rather than solve the problem in the first place, which is plastic bags flying away. They have us so the whole population is like, oh, glass, it's so beautiful, it must be infinitely recyclable. Well, maybe, but no one will buy it. So it's actually costing us money. So glass is horrible for recycling, but guess what? It's awesome for reuse. So if you ever have like those pasta sauce size jars, Part and Parcel could use some. That's what we wash, sanitize, and reuse for their products. So, let's put them into the reuse circulation. That's what I think. Hope that's helpful.
Yes.
I don't know
And we can
educating the population, but I will tell you what, the Durham County, so there's City of Durham Solid Waste Management and there's Durham County Solid Waste Management. Durham County was responsible for all the education and outreach for the whole city, the whole county. They were like a 5-person team, which is obviously not enough. But they went ahead a few years ago. We were very angry and wrote letters to the editor and everything. They cut everybody but one person. So it's a 1-woman show. She can't do everything. They cut the enforcers. You know what that is? It's when they see something in the recycle bins, they do a random peek all the time. And if you have a violation, they educate you they put a violation notice and you learn something. Hopefully it's better than nothing, but they do 0 of that. There's no education now, and there's no outreach, and there's no enforcement.
Mary Jo, did you have a question?
Now unmute myself somehow. I can't figure out how when you do the screen.
Oh, you're at the Forest at Duke. Probably my friend Ann Hussener.
Yeah, we're just thinking about Ann's visits over to Sunoco. And I don't know, for Joe Bernhardt, for example, whether where she lives this would be possible, but we have signs at each one of our recycling places which says, do not bag your recyclables. Do not put plastic bags in here. I think that has helped to cut down on
I'm
that.
so glad.
But that, once again, is a situation where we had permission to do that. I don't know whether, where you live, that would be possible or not. But, that the other thing, in answer to Gene Wilson's concern, is if you have a whole lot of groceries, you may not want to do this. But at Harris Teeter, if I go to the self-checkout, I can just put my bags at the self-checkout and use them, even though they won't use them in the cash register line.
Yep. Unless we put a boomerang bag kiosk nearby, people can take their own. They'll be clean. So
Thanks, Margaret. Mary Jo, did you have something? I can't hear you. Can't hear you. I still can't hear you for some reason, Mary Jo.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. Excuse the buzzing. That's my computer, the fan. Let me turn it up. Okay, plastics. You said the little tiny plastics that jam up. What I have done, and tell me if this doesn't work because it's going to crush me if it doesn't. I put all the little tiny things in a big jar until I fill up the big jar, and then I put that. Will that be acceptable?
well, the thing is, all of those are different types of plastics, possibly. I think if they're all the same type, that might work. The problem is they have to separate out. So the only things that are plastic, that's the other sad, hard truth. The only plastic things that are worth anything on the market and are therefore worth it for Sunoco to process and bale are 1s and 2s that are in the shape of a bottle. The rest of them are really not the quality of plastic that they want. And the number 2s, which are like detergent bottles and that really thick plastic, they really only want the clear ones, which means like Tide and stuff like that. So the people who buy these plastics want to put their own color into it. And if you have things like Tide jugs, you're gonna mess up the color thing. So it's a huge problem. Yeah, I think what you're doing seems fine, Mary Jo. That way they're not getting clogged in the machinery.
But they're probably not going to be able to recycle it.
We're gonna have to ask Patrick whether he recommends that. I do know that if you have a bottle and a lid, it used to be you're supposed to put them in separately, but now the practice is they recommend put the lid on.
Oh,
Okay. I have other questions. One was we use Weaver Acres CSA. I hope you'll go to them because they're using plastic bags for their lettuce and stuff. So please, I hope you'll use them. And I just checked out like the Toast website and they use your services, the Green to Go. And when you order online, they do have that. Do you want, plastic utensils and stuff?
Yes.
So that's good.
That's so good.
Yeah. And my other question was about, I did see the whole Kiss the Ground, which was wonderful. It's so depressing in the beginning, and then but there's hope with regenerative farms. And they're the solution in San Francisco for compostables. They have recycling, landfill, and compostables, which you see in some, I think they probably have that at the co-op.
Bigger cities have that too.
Well, that's what I was going to ask. Is it not available to Durham? Is there any possibility of that?
That's a great question. There is some movement at the City of Durham Solid Waste. They're working really hard on trying to get a permit to put a giant windrow, as they call it, commercial composting section out there on Club Boulevard where they have land. They're getting all kinds of problems with this particular area where they need this facility to be. The original idea was that they would do a pilot for municipal curbside composting pickup. The caveat would be the pilot would only be available to 100 residents to start with, just to test it. And then eventually rolled it out to city residents, not county, and would only be residential, not commercial. So some caveats, but still way better than Durham would like to be the very first city in North Carolina that does this, but they're having all kinds of problems. If you ever have interest, the Environmental Affairs Board for the city county has monthly meetings the first Wednesday of every month. They're online right now, but they're intensely fascinating. You like all things environmental because you stay plugged in and into these kind of things. Often the solid waste is on the agenda and they give updates. I wish I knew more and I wish I knew what to do to support that. But yeah, the intention is for it to come.
I know that we could, oh, go ahead. I know we could spend here like hours and we have somewhere to go. We'll bring you back. We'll ask Faith and Community if we can have a whole nother series and bring your recycling and composting. I do wanted to ask you, I mentioned it before about the plastic bottles that we use for walk-in ministry, if you had a solution for that.
Hey.
Yeah, so that's a tricky one because bottled water sure is convenient, isn't it? And you know, you don't want people to be drinking soda, so the best thing would be water. Oh man, here's another hard truth about bottled water. It is chock full of microplastics. They found something like 10,000 plus parts per million of microplastics, which cause like hormonal endocrine disruption, cancer, all these things. So I always tell people there's a time and a place for bottled water. Let's not refuse it to like Flint, Michigan or something. It's an emergency. However, if at all possible, please let us avoid plastic bottled water because it's like pouring cancer down your throat. And the tap water is great. I have this idea that popped into my head the other day when you asked this question, Chris. Everybody at home, I think we all have more than enough reusable bottles than we need, right? I know I do. I have a whole cupboard full. What if we pooled these into a circulating system? We can wash, sanitize, and distribute. What if you distributed reusable bottles with water every time? And then, you know, they got out there in the community and even if they kept them, no problem. We got plenty more. I think there's enough reusable bottles in the community. You just tell us how many, and we could do a drive and get these washed and sanitized and then fill them with tap water. It's just an idea.
Yeah, let's work on that, Jean and
Yeah.
everyone else that has that idea.
I know you all have to
wonderful.
get to service now.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, we'll bring you back. Thank you so much, Crystal, and this has been fabulous.
I love talking with you all. You all have fabulous ideas. Enjoy the service and the beautiful day.
All right, thank you all. Thanks for this series, and we'll see you all really soon. We'll try to get all your questions answered, and if you have any other questions, you can contact Crystal directly. I think she left your email, or contact me or anyone on the Creation Care team. Thanks, everybody.
Okay, thank you.